wanted to talk about customer casework was a lady who was struggling with her husband. And I visited her at home just the once. I also provided support to the care expert who was visiting them. And although I rang this lady quite regularly initially because she was having challenges, the support that I provided just went on for a few months, because then she made the difficult decision to put her husband in a care home. He'd been going for various periods of respite in order to give her a break, but she was struggling. So the family decided that he needed to go to a nearby care home, which was the best result for them, for him, because typically we would suggest putting a live-in carer in at this point to give the lady a break, but also to provide much more support, one-to-one support with the gentleman. But their house was not conducive to this. They didn't have a room that was suitable, so the decision was made. The reason why I wanted to talk about this particular lady is because after her husband went into the care home, she was obviously visiting him a lot to start off with, but then less so, which is good. I mean, she needs to feel that she's still helping in his care, but she also needed to step back a bit in order to have a break. So initially lots of visits may be the right thing to do, but as the weeks went by, you need to just slow it down a bit. Other people can go and visit him each day. You know, it doesn't have to be the wife or the family carer. It's my dog. No, Lucy, come and sit here. The thing that I wanted to mention was that my support for this lady it continued for several weeks, if not a couple of months after her husband went into the care home. And I don't see my job stops. Sorry, Lucy. I don't see my job stops when the gentleman went into a care home. I see my job as continuing, because I'm there to support the family member as well. And even if it's just a couple of phone calls or maybe meeting for a cup of coffee somewhere, that is all part of my role. So I carried on calling her. I asked her if she wanted me to continue chatting with her, and she said yes. And I said, how often do you want me to ring? And she said every couple of weeks. So that's what I did for the first, 6-8 weeks after the gentleman went into a care home. And it was just to help her transition from a full-time carer through to this new situation that she found herself in, where she was, and I use this term very carefully, just a wife again. And to me, actually, she was going into the role that she should have been doing. So what I often say to people who look after somebody with dementia at home for as long as possible, which is the right thing to do, is that when it is taking such a toll on you, that you're not sleeping, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're worn out, and you are no longer doing things that you enjoy doing. So in other words, when your life is completely taken over by your caring role for your husband or wife or whoever it is, that is the time to delegate certain tasks. And that is where obviously our care experts come in. So getting a regular care expert visiting to do some of the housekeeping and that kind of thing, but also to spend time with the person with dementia, thereby giving the family carer a bit of a break. That is exactly what you should be doing. And unfortunately, a lot of people leave it too late. And by the time they think about, I really need help, it's actually too late, because the person with dementia is at the stage where they're saying, I don't want strangers in the house. We don't need help. I don't need help. I don't need anybody helping me to shower. I'm perfectly capable of doing that myself. But of course they're not, and they can't. So what they're remembering is 20 years ago, but not the real situation now. So the time has passed, and it becomes very difficult at that point to get somebody in to help. So this lady did the right thing. I could then help her transition back to being a wife. She delegated all the care duties to the people in the care home, who were then looking after her husband. So it was helping her to change her psychology with regard to her current situation. And she was extremely grateful. By the time we stopped communicating, I asked her, do you wish me to call again in a couple of weeks? And she said, you know what, Tamzin, I'm part of the local church group now. There are other ladies there or gentlemen there who are looking after their husband or wife because they're elderly or they have illness. And she said, I've got a really good face-to-face support network now. So it's really kind of you and thank you very much, but I don't need you anymore. And that is wonderful. That is wonderful because she's found her feet in her new role and she's started the new chapter in her life, and that's fine. I was so happy for her. So that's where our communication ended. But to me, it's quite an important example to talk about because the support carries on for a certain amount of time. I can't say that I'll just carry on ringing for 6 months, but as long as I can, and as long as it's relevant for me to do so, I obviously discuss it with the carer first. But how long do you want me to? Would you like me to ring again in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months or whatever? And if the answer is yes, then I will. But if they say, oh no, it's fine, I'm okay now, I've started doing hill walking or whatever, getting their life back, in other words, and that's fine. So it's like your children flying the nest when they're little. I felt like she'd flown the nest and she'd moved on, and that was wonderful. So that was another example of what I do, and a particular customer who stayed in my mind for a long time after I finished talking to her.